You know, a lot of people have a love-hate relationship with the drop shot, but it's actually a really super simple technique. Doesn't take a lot of equipment to get the drop shot in your hand. It catches big fish, it catches small fish, it catches fish in the toughest of conditions, and it's used in tournaments all over the country. And in today, I'm gonna get you dialed in on the drop shot. This video is sponsored by Waterland Fishing Optics. Waterland makes awesome sunglasses specifically for fishermen. They're built by fishermen for fishermen. They got all kinds of technology built into the lenses to help you see into the water and ultimately catch more fish. So head over to waterlandco.com, use discount code LUNA15. It's gonna help you save 15% off. Again, that's waterlandco.com, use discount code LUNA15. So guys, the first mistake I see people do when throwing the drop shot is they have the wrong style rod. You need to have a smaller rod. I use a 6'10" to 7'2" 6 cents rod. I use a vast array of different rods. I've fallen in love with their USA Custom. It's a higher end rod, but basically you want something that has a medium to medium light action. So those lighter action rods are really important because when you have light weights, you need a lighter action rod to be able to cast accurately. Having a light weight, you need that spinning rod in your hand to be able to drag that weight nice and slow on the bottom. It's super key to have a light and sensitive rod because a lot of times with the drop shot, that bite's super subtle. So you want something very, very sensitive and something that you can tell the difference between the bottom and a bite. So the second mistake that I see people make is they have the wrong spinning reel. You don't want that little tiny trout reel, and you don't want that big giant saltwater reel. I like to stick with that 2,500 to 3,000 size in my spinning reels. I think it ends up being the perfect size all around. And this reel right here is the Shimano Vanford. This thing is a great reel. I also use the Daiwa Tatula LT. The reels are really, really important because you need something that's light, you need something that's relatively small, and you need something that has a great drag system. Having a great drag system is super key because of that light line, because of that lighter rod. You don't want something that's gonna stick on you because if that drag starts to stick on you, you're gonna end up breaking fish off on the hook set or breaking fish off during the fight. So guys, the third mistake that I see people make when fishing the drop shot is they have the wrong line on their reels. You need to have a braid to fluorocarbon leader. I think that there's some debate on that, but in my opinion, you can't go wrong by having that braid to fluorocarbon. You get the best of both worlds. You get sensitivity and invisibility. I like to use a braided main line, which is the line that goes onto my actual spinning reel. I use braid for that because it's gonna give me the most casting distance. It's gonna give me the most sensitivity because it has no stretch, and braid comes off a spinning reel awesome. Then the next piece of line I'm gonna have is tied to that braided main line. It's a fluorocarbon leader, and I'm usually going with a Sunline FC Sniper or a Seaguar InvisX or a BrazeX. High quality fluorocarbon is key. Fluorocarbon is basically invisible underneath that water, so you're gonna be able to get that bait down there. Having that light line is gonna allow it to have a lot of action, and that fluorocarbon is gonna be virtually invisible to those fish. You're basically getting the best of both worlds because you're getting the sensitivity and the casting distance out of that braid, and then you're getting the invisibility without losing much sensitivity because that fluorocarbon also has very little stretch. So mistake number 4 with the drop shot is they are using too heavy of a weight. You wanna use the lightest weight that you can get away with. If you can fish a 1/8 ounce weight and feel the bottom, that's the one you wanna fish. If you can't feel it, then you're gonna go up a little bit. I use a weight from an 1/8 ounce up to a 3/8 ounce, whether it's lead or tungsten. Basically, the main difference between lead and tungsten is lead is cheaper, but tungsten is more dense. That means it's gonna be more sensitive than lead is. So if you're fishing around a lot of rock and you need that sensitivity to feel the difference between a bite and a rock, then you might wanna go with that tungsten. But if you're fishing around grass or something a little bit softer where you don't really need all that sensitivity coming out of your weight, then you can go with lead, and you don't need to tie your line to that swivel. You simply just pull that line up into the swivel until it gets tight. It's designed so that way if you get that weight snagged in the bottom, you can pull that line out and you just lose the weight and not the entire setup. So guys, mistake number 5 that I see people make with the drop shot is they have the wrong size hook. You don't want a big giant gaff on the end of your line. You want a smaller hook. You're gonna wanna stay in the size 1 to 1/0 hooks. The hook is key. You need a very sharp hook on the drop shot. It's gonna be a smaller hook. I use 2 different ones. I either use a drop shot style hook for nose hook presentations, or I use a straight shank light wire hook for my weedless presentations. It's basically it, guys. Those 2 different options are gonna have you covered when it comes to the drop shot. If you're fishing around heavy cover and you need to have a weedless presentation, then go with that straight shank style hook. If you're in open water scenarios, go with that nose hook. It's gonna give you better hookup ratios overall, but make sure it's a light wire and it's sharp. Those are the main things you wanna pay attention to. Another mistake that I see people make with the drop shot is they got these crazy style baits on there, guys. You need something subtle, you need something small, because in most situations when you're fishing the drop shot, high pressure situations, the fish just don't want to bite, so you want something natural, you need something small. So don't go out there and get your giant crazy baits to go on the drop shot. There might be scenarios where guys catch fish doing that, but in general, you're gonna want something small, you're gonna want something natural. I'm really falling in love with the 6-inch glitch. It's a 3.8-inch bait. It's a little minnow presentation, goby presentation, but just stick to those staples, natural colors, whatever you're trying to imitate, whether it's a shad, worm, whatever, go with natural colors, because a lot of times fishing the drop shot, you're gonna be in clear water as well. One of the great things about the drop shot is that it's a year-around bait. I fish this thing from summer to winter, fall, spring. I've got a drop shot tied on all the time. It's gonna be one of the best baits that you can throw when the fishing is tough. When you can't get a bite, that's where the drop shot shines, guys. If you take the information that I presented in this video, it's going to help you catch more fish. Those days where you don't know what to throw, try a drop shot. I bet you're gonna get some bites, and I bet you're gonna catch some fish. And don't be surprised if you get a big one on one of those tough days on a drop shot.